I'm going to share the screen with you. So we'll start with a new chapter, diversity in living organisms. Just 1 second, children. I'll just share the screen with you.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay. Just 1 second. So now, as we are going to deal with we are going to learn more things in this, in diversity in living organisms. What is meant by diversity in living organisms? So, firstly, we are going to know about what is the meaning of this diversity. What is this
Ma'am,
actually?
can I say?
Yes.
Ma'am, a group of organisms, a particular group of organisms living together in a forest or in an area.
Okay, but it is not the correct meaning of that.
Ma'am, again, one will be depend upon other, ma'am. Example, animals and
No,
humans
no.
will be depend upon
Diversity
plants.
in the sense what?
Ma'am, your voice is low,
Diversity
ma'am.
means what?
Yes, ma'am, your voice is low.
Ma'am, but in our last year textbook, it is like it only, ma'am.
Ma'am,
Plants will.
biodiversity will include all species, animal species, and various
Please speak
depending.
loudly. I can't hear your voice.
Okay, ma'am. Biodiversity is means in biodiversity it will be the animal species like uh, endangered species that like that, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. Now I'll just explain to you.
Ma'am,
So
we can't
here,
hear
we
your
all
voice,
know
ma'am.
that each and every organism has its different features, isn't it? We all are born with different types of features. Like you are different from your friend, isn't it? You are somewhat tall, and some of you are a little bit stout, and some of you are a little bit fat, and some are thin.
Ma'am, biodiversity means actually biotic and abiotic living together, ma'am.
Yes, we all are born with different types of features. We all are different. Like your hands, your fingers, and even your nose doesn't resemble others. Each and everyone have their own characters, isn't it? We cannot compare ourselves with our friends, or even in animals. If you see, we cannot even compare ourselves with others. They don't have similar characteristics. Each and
Ma'am, your voice is
every
very
living
low,
form
ma'am.
that
Yes, ma'am.
surrounds
Say some
us.
louder, ma'am. Ma'am, say some louder.
Sorry, I can't hear you. Very
Ma'am, your
low
voice is very
voice.
low, ma'am.
Oh, ma'am.
Even my voice is very low.
Yes, ma'am,
Yeah,
very
ma'am.
low.
Okay, here I have to shout. Here I have to shout a lot. Okay, children, just 1 second.
Mute చేయలే.
Voice is very low, ma'am.
Okay, 1 second. I'll just try to do one thing. Yes, children. So we were discussing about
Ma'am,
the
Abhinash want to
diversity in
join it,
living
please, ma'am.
organisms.
Ma'am, again your voice is coming low, ma'am.
It's okay. If my voice is low, then I'll just increase my volume. Now you can hear.
Yeah, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am, somewhat.
Okay. So we were discussing about the diversity in living organisms. So if you can see around you, if you can see your friends, or or in your family members, your brothers and sisters, if you have, then you may not have the same height as your brothers and sisters, isn't it? And even your nose doesn't resemble like your friend's nose. So if we compare ourselves, we are not same, isn't it? We are different from each other. Our features are different. So here, if we now in this topic, the living organisms have evolved on the earth over millions of years ago, isn't it? There is a vast variety of living organisms. There are so many living organisms. Okay, so here they doesn't resemble each other. They are different. So many living creatures are there. So even in these living creatures, they are divided, they are classified into different types based on these difference in living organisms. They are categorized, they are classified into different groups. So now in this lesson, we'll discuss about the different groups based on their characteristics, based on their similarities in their behavior. So they are classified. So in this classification of living organisms, so now we'll see when and which organisms are classified. Some microscopic bacteria, and they are very minute, a few micrometers in size, and some like whales, they are very big, 30 meters and 100 meters in size. Some pine trees live for thousands of years, while insects like mosquitoes, they die within a few days. Isn't it, children? So, some organisms are colorless, and even they are transparent, and some are brightly colored. To understand and study all these organisms is impossible. We cannot. If they are arranged into different groups, then based on their similarities, if they are grouped together, then it is very easy to study about them, isn't it, children? So, based on these similarities and their characteristics, it is easier to study the different groups. As a whole, the classification of living organisms is being made. They are made into different groups. They are arranged into different groups on the basis of their similarities and characteristics. This is called as classification of living organisms. So the main characteristics which are considered for classification of living organisms into different groups are whether they are made of prokaryotic or eukaryotic cells, whether the cells occur single or they are in group together and live as individual groups. They are classified based on prokaryotic, whether the cells are prokaryotic or eukaryotic, and even whether the cells they are grouped accordingly when they are whether they are living single or whether they are living in a group, whether they are whether they produce their own food by photosynthesis or they obtain their food from any other source. Depending on this, they are classified again. And the organisms which produce their own food like plants, then what is the level of organization of their body? Then depending on that, they are again classified. And for animals, what is their level of organization of their body, if they have the special organs, and then what are their functions? Depending on that, again, they are grouped differently, they are classified. So we'll see the classification on the basis of different types of levels of organization of either it might be animals, and even we'll see for plants. So now the characteristics used for classification of plants will be different from characteristics used for classification of animals. So the classification of plants will be different from the classification of animals because plants make their own food and animals depend on others for their food. They get their food from outside. So now we'll see the classification and evolution. In the present day, the complex living organisms have evolved from the earlier simple forms. Earlier simple forms means what? From earlier, the organisms which used to stay millions of years ago, over millions of years, their body are designed. They went into so many changes occurred. So many changes occurred in their body designs over millions of years. So the body designs of the living organisms are gradually changing due to changes in environment and the need to adapt themselves to the changes in the environment. Isn't it, children? There are lots and lots of changes in the environment. So based on these changes, the body designs of the animals, living organisms have been changed. Some group of organisms having ancient body design have not changed much during evolution and have simple forms and structure. These organisms are called primitive or lower organisms. Some organisms have acquired their body designs relatively recently and have complex forms and structure. These organisms are called advanced or higher organisms because some organisms have acquired their body designs according to they have complex forms and structure like higher organisms. Like we, the humans, isn't it? We come under the higher organisms. Now we'll see the hierarchy of classification, the groups, how they are grouped into the different forms. Living organisms have been broadly classified into 5 main kingdoms. Now before going to this, children, I just want to give you a few more details about the.
Ma'am, your voice again reduced, ma'am.
Okay, I'll just increase my volume. We have just seen that depending on the prokaryotic and eukaryotic cell organization.
Ma'am, your voices are not audible, ma'am.
Still not audible? Still my
No,
voice is
ma'am.
not audible?
Now okay, ma'am.
Yeah, ma'am.
Okay. So, what is the basis of classification, children? On what basis the classification has been given? On the basis of the living things. They are grouped. They are grouped accordingly. So, from the time immemorial, the Greek thinker Aristotle classified the animals according to whether they lived on land or in water or in air. So according to that, based on that, the Aristotle have been given the classification. This is very simple way of looking at life, but misleading too much. For example, animals that live in sea include corals, whales, octopus, starfish, and shark, isn't it? In ocean, the animals which live in water, we can immediately see that these are very different from each other in numerous ways. The habitat is the only point they can share in common. The habitat in which they are living, they live in water. So this is the only point they share in common. This is not appropriate way of making groups of organisms to study and think about. So again, what they decided, Aristotle first he classified based on the uh, whether the organisms they live on land or in water or in air. But this is not enough. Then what they decided? They decided the characteristics to be used based on uh, making the broadest divisions. Then we'll have to pick up the next set of characteristics for making subgroups within these divisions. This process of classification within each group can then continue using new characteristics. So before we go on, we need to think about what is meant by characteristics when we are trying to classify the diverse group of organisms, children. We need to find the ways in which some of them are similar enough to be thought of together. These ways, their appearance, the details of appearance or behavior, in other words, form and function, the behavior, how they are similar. So the characteristics are, they are grouped into the, they have just formed a characteristic. Now to understand how some characteristics are decided as being more fundamental than others. So now what they have done, the characteristics in the next level would depend on the previous one and would decide the variety in the next level. Now we'll see the hierarchy of classification. Now how they are grouped. The living organisms have been broadly classified into 5 main kingdoms. They are Monera, Protista, fungi, plantae, and animalia. Each kingdom has been further classified into small subgroups. Firstly, they are classified into 5 main kingdoms. What are the kingdoms? I just want you to write it down in your books, in your classwork books. If you have the books with you, please note it down.
Ma'am will take screenshot, ma'am.
Okay, but taking screenshot isn't enough. You have to write it down in your notebooks, because if
Okay,
you
ma'am.
want to go through it, then you can open your books and just check out in your books. You can learn from your
Okay,
books.
ma'am.
Again, you can't open your phone and check the screenshots. I'll give you time. Please note it down, children. Can I just see you all? Can I see your cam? Please keep your camera. I just want to see you all. Yeah, show your books whether you're noting it down or not. Just Vishnu, Mohit, Kalyana Babu, I just want to see you all. Okay. Are you noting it down?
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, in classwork, ma'am.
Yes, in class book.
Ma'am, that flow chart we have to write. Ma'am, that one kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus,
Yes,
species, that
yes,
all.
you have to note it down.
Okay, ma'am.
So the kingdoms, the 5 main kingdoms, they are Monera, Protista, fungi, plantae, and animalia. So you have to note it down. And each kingdom has been further classified into smaller subgroups at various levels as kingdom, phylum for plants, division for animals. Phylum we'll use for plants, and for animals we use division. Okay, while writing the subgroups. So the main group for it is, for these kingdoms, the subgroups will be written as phylum. We have to write phylum. For plants, if it is for plants, then we have to write phylum. And we are writing for animals, then we have to write division. We have to use division. I'll just show you how to write it. And after that, you have to write class. If you are writing for animals, then you have to write first division, then class, then order, then family, genus, and then species. And if you are writing for plants, and if you are mentioning it for any one plant, then you have to write phylum of that plant, then class, order of that plant, family, genus. So I'll explain to you everything. By arranging organisms on the basis of their hierarchy and characteristics into smaller and smaller groups, we arrive at the basic unit of classification called the species. What is species now? Species is group of organisms which are similar enough to breed and perpetuate. So are you noting it down?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah, ma'am, finished.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, children. So, five.
What is the meaning of kingdom, ma'am?
Yes,
Kingdom.
it is the main. It is the main kingdom. It is a classification. The main group, the main kingdom. Depending on that, in that the kingdoms are again divided. The classified. The different organisms are classified based on the five kingdoms. The organisms are placed inside those kingdoms, like how you will be classified the different in the olden days there were kings, their kingdoms were different, isn't it?
Ma'am, your voice is low, ma'am.
So the
Yes,
organisms, yes, now,
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, ma'am.
yes, now based on the living organisms, how they are classified into different kingdoms. The way they live, the characteristics they show, depending on that, the organisms, the living organisms are classified into different kingdoms. They are again groups inside that kingdom. Like in the olden days, how you had different kingdoms. In that kingdoms, the king used to rule. There were different kings, and the kings have different kingdoms, isn't it? Based on that, here also there are different kingdoms for the living organisms. Based on that, they are again classified into different groups, small groups and subgroups. Now further, if we see the five kingdom classification of living organisms, so the living organisms are again divided into prokaryotes and eukaryotes. The prokaryotes, in the prokaryotes, it includes Monera, and in eukaryotes, it includes unicellular and multicellular. Under unicellular, Protista comes under unicellular organisms, and multicellular, we all know that they are animalia. They are without cell wall. We all know that multicellular organisms, only plants have a rigid cell wall. We all have gone through it, isn't it?
Yes, ma'am.
So here, unicellular and multicellular, we are going to deal with further. And in unicellular, Protista comes under unicellular organisms, which means they have cell wall. They have cell wall. For example, here the fungi and the plants. Fungi, they do not perform photosynthesis, but they are grouped under unicellular organisms. For plants, they are able to perform photosynthesis. Again, they are grouped in two different types. The unicellular organisms are grouped under, the fungi is grouped under Protista, because it is with cell wall. Because it is with cell wall, the plants are grouped under protista. The plantae, because they are able to perform photosynthesis. Okay, children? So now coming to Monera, here if you can see the prokaryotes, the organisms are grouped under prokaryotes and eukaryotes. Now if we see the prokaryotes, the first kingdom is Monera. We'll now discuss about Monera. So what is it? They are mostly prokaryotic, unicellular. They do not have a definite nucleus, may or may not have cell wall. And the mode of nutrition is autotrophic or heterotrophic. For example, bacteria, blue-green algae, cyanobacteria, mycoplasma, etc. So you can see the pictures here. The picture of bacteria, cyanobacteria, blue-green algae, mycoplasma. So if you want, you can take the screenshot of this. So the kingdom Monera is again divided into mostly prokaryotic and eukaryotic. Is it okay, children?
Yes, ma'am.
Have you understood?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So what is Monera? Monera is a kingdom. Monera is a kingdom. So what are the 5 main kingdoms, children?
Ma'am, Protista, Monera, Animalia, and
Ma'am, plantae fungi.
Plantae and fungi. Okay, good. So this classification was given by Whitaker. This classification was given by Whitaker.
ma'am,
Yes.
ma'am, last year also in 7th class or 8th class we
Yes. Yes, tell me. Yes. Yes, Vishnu, tell me. Okay, I can't hear you. So the famous biologists such as Ernest Haeckel and Robert Whittaker in 1959 and Carl Woese have tried to classify all these organisms into 5 kingdoms. So who